Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Meaning of the Minds. I'm your host Robert, and tonight I'm here with Brittany and Jackie, and we're talking relationships. Say hi, girls.
Hi.
Yeah, we finally got the show up and going. We heard you guys. I know our listeners wanted us to deal with relationships, and you guys wanted us to get more into that. So we dedicated this Sunday show to relationship everything. So we'll be dealing with all relationships all the time on this particular segment. We'll still be dealing with the relationship issues on our Tuesday and Thursday shows, like from time to time, where it fits our topics. But this show, Sunday nights at 8, will be designated and specific to relationships. So tonight we're going to discuss how men and women, especially in millennial generation, seem to be out of sync with each other, how our expectations differ, and like where we're off, where are we not, on the same page pretty much. And then we'll be discussing relationships and social media, and then hopefully we'll get into our generation in marriage. And most likely we'll have to segue that into next week, but at least want to give you guys a little intro to it if we can. So the first thing we're going to do is start off with how we're out of sync with each other. And I know that that's a pretty big deal in our generation because, there's a lot of different things out there that kind of put us in different modes of expectation. So I'm going to ask you girls, first and foremost, where do you guys think that we're coming off, like, not in sync with each other in terms of how, like, particularly our generation? Go ahead, Jackie, you can go and go first.
As far as being out of sync with each other, I think a lot of it has to do with the expectations of the other in the relationship. I guess nowadays a lot of women like to be a lot more independent and would like a lot more insight from their men, and sometimes it also seems that a lot of men want their women still to be independent and work and stuff, but also be that housewife at the same time, and it throws a lot of things off in relationships with like what you expect from the other person, and that's like a big deal, especially if there's lack of communication with people. That's being married, and that's kind of where I come from sometimes. So, just if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, no, most definitely. What about you, Brittany? What do you think?
I would say that what Jackie had to say would be accurate. I think that the expectations have changed for what a woman has to bring to a relationship and what a man has to bring to a relationship. And that being said, I think it's difficult to establish boundaries with respect to what the gender roles are, such that everyone feels like they're being validated, but at the same time that they're valuable to the relationship. So whereas previously it was important for women to be stay-at-home moms, we haven't set up culturally a way for women to do that any longer, unless the man is incredibly wealthy. Then it's really difficult to be able to do that. And I'm not a mom, so I don't know, but my assumption would be that there's a fair bit of guilt for working women to feel like they can juggle both things appropriately without sacrificing one or the other a little bit. So I think it just depends on what our expectations are now versus what we anticipated that they were previously or what they should be. So I think that's something, as Jackie pointed out, it's a miscommunication a lot of times.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because, I talk to a lot of women, about this kind of thing, especially women who I know, have careers and are pretty career-driven. And they kind of talk about, how they don't feel necessary, their femininity being able to continue because they're usually in man mode all day at work, like you said, like you guys talking about how, what do you do? Are you, what are the expectations? Am I supposed to, I'm supposed to work, but I'm also supposed to raise children and be the wife and all these different hats that you guys have to wear. And I know a lot of women struggle with, especially if they're on that career track, because it's like, finally women are able to have that, pretty on the same level as men, but it seems to kind of be hurting their femininity because they're all having to be in that produce mode, even if it's, whatever you're doing. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think it's kind of tough to be able to still be a girl and still be able to do what you have to do out in the business world?
I don't know, Jackie, you have kids.
Yeah, no, I can seem to handle that pretty well. I mean, I have no problem with standing around and playing that more, I don't want to say masculine role because it's not, I wouldn't really put that, but more aggressive role, and then come home and be able to put on the hat as far as a mother and, the housewife type of thing. That's not too much of an issue or anything like that. For me, in general, I can understand for some women in different types of jobs that it would be, they would expect more maybe femininity from their own husbands, if that makes any sense. Like, because maybe they are more of the breadwinners, and it's hard for them to get out of that role when they come home. But not for me, not so much with my femininity. I'm okay with that. What about you, Brittany?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have those expectations of me. See, I'm not dating anybody, so I don't have to answer to anybody with regard to anything, or be anyone's mom, or be, there for anybody that way. So it's sort of irrelevant for me at this point. But I don't know. I think that it shouldn't be as difficult, but it sounds that that's typically more, I don't know, in theory, that's how it should be. We should be able to do all these things. We should all be super women. But I think in reality, that hurts a lot of relationships because, again, it just goes back to expectations. And I think being able to handle or juggle the load, can one person do everything? And can that other person do everything too? You both work, you both have to bring in an income, you both are supporting a kid. Like, I don't know what that's like, but my assumption would be that that's very difficult and demanding on both individuals. And I don't know how that feels from a man's standpoint to, the traditional or conventional role was always that the man was the breadwinner, that he was meant to provide. So if a woman can provide for herself, I don't know what that does to a man's ego, or what that does from a man's standpoint in a relationship, especially if the woman makes more money than the man. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't ever been in that power struggle. But I can only assume that would be probably something you'd have to tiptoe around for a little while before that had to be discussed.
Right. Well, from like a male's perspective, we're so compelled to provide. And it's because of what providing has been defined, especially, in, male society, and how we are taught what that means. But there's more to providing than just finances. But I believe that in order for us to get kind of back in sync, especially in this area, I think those gender roles do have to be discussed, because you guys have to really be able to talk about what do you really expect from me, what is realistic, because I think it's really hard to think that a woman, can do all those things and think she's going to have enough time to be, my wife, or certain things that need to have happen or whatever. But I know, like, some guys who are in this position, it doesn't seem like they have a big, grudge against, a woman making more money, but they still want to feel like the man, and I'm not sure if that's ego or if that's just hardwiring and just needing to feel like they're able to provide something for you that is needed, and that's received correctly, or it's received, well. And so, because of the way things are now, I think that definitely has to be redefined. It has to be talked about, and you can't just assume anymore that this person is going to do this and this person is going to do that, and we're going to just, it's already known. Like, that can't be like that anymore, because it's very, like I said, nowadays it's very rare that one person can really just bring in enough income for the entire family. So it's definitely one of those things that definitely has to be talked about. But I think what's interesting about that too, because like, how does that like kind of going or transferring into like dating. Like, how do you think people are out of sync dating? And I know, Brittany, you say you're not dating right now, but I'm assuming you're going to be soon, And I know, Jackie, you haven't dated in a while, but I'm sure you guys have friends that are in the situation and have been in the situation. And I know, like, even dating now we seem to be coming in different, in different places and have different expectations still, even to this day. So what do you guys think about that, dating, and how that can work now, how that works now? I'm sorry, go ahead. Brittany, you can take this one.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I think it's harder than it used to be. I mean, I really do. I think, and it's kind of ironic, that, like, we have so much access to technology and so many different ways to communicate with each other, and yet it's still more difficult to ever really be intimate. So I feel like it's just one of those things where you don't just meet the person at the grocery store anymore because we don't have as much face-to-face interaction as we used to. And so, so I'm divorced, for instance, and the way that I met my ex-husband was he sat down next to me on an airplane. So, I mean, sometimes it does just happen that spontaneously, but I think if you're actively trying to date, then what are your options other than online dating or going to bars? And everybody always poo-poos going to bars. Okay, well then where do you go? Especially if you're in, like right now, like I'm 30. Like where do you go when you're 30? And for me, I've had this huge culture shock. I was from Arizona, and that was a certain culture where, certain things were valued other than, certain things were valued. And then I moved to the Midwest where other things are valued, and they're not the same. It's a complete dichotomy. So it's just, I don't have a good answer to that. I think it's more difficult than it used to be, I guess is the bottom line.
Yeah, from what I can see, from what I tell with my friends and stuff like that, especially with, trying to find someone, and they're always so down that they can't find anybody, and it's like, well, where are you going to find these people? Well, I'm going to the bar. Well, is that the kind of person that you want to bring home? Like, is someone that you met when you were really drunk, and like that's, and then they go to online dating, and then, well, this person called me the first time that they saw my profile, and they want to go out. It ends up being just a one-night thing, and it's like, well, that's where you, like, again, you have to sit down and you have to ask the other person, what do you expect out of this before you even start jumping into anything? Because sometimes it's all they want is that one-night stand, or, and it's sad to watch with friends going through that kind of thing. But, I mean, it's realistic. It's hard to find a good guy or find a good girl nowadays because it, like you said, Brittany, the face-to-face contact is just not there anymore. Everything's online. Everything is like you have to look up from your phone in order to see the person next to you. That could be the next person that you marry, or a person that you date, or anything like that. It's kind of sad. It's sad to watch sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it seems like we have much more access to people as a whole, which, you would think would actually bring, better results in terms of being able to find people. But it's actually, like you guys are talking about, I kind of hearing that you're saying it's kind of killing the intimacy, which is pretty much, information. And it's hard to get to those places where you can share that kind of thing with somebody because of the way things are set up nowadays. And I know intimacy is really a real big ticket issue for women, even still now. And I mean, it's important to guys too, but I don't believe that women, I don't think women can really feel like they're really getting what they're needing from a relationship if there's no intimacy. Especially it needs to be there, in the beginning as well. Just to have a sexual relationship doesn't seem to really fit that. And so how do we start to get intimacy back? Because, the online dating, all that stuff, that's not going anywhere, and the way things are now, like you said, it's hard to meet people, but at the same time, like, that stuff isn't going anywhere. So how do we get people to be able to, how do you get that intimacy? Like, how did you start building that in the world where everything's fast and everyone's busy and you have so many distractions? I think us missing the ability just to really get to know each other and have a conversation.
Yeah, what happened to courtship? Where did that go?
It's true.
And so it's like, it seems to me like, we've kind of cut that out, and that's really like, the key right there. And I don't know how you get that back in there, because I think that's what people are missing.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of strange, but I was at the coffee shop today and I was drinking a coffee and eavesdropping on everyone else's conversations per normal. And all of the females who were talking with each other were all talking about boy issues, either their boyfriends or guys they were dating or like some sort of boy-related issue. And I just don't think that guys go to coffee shops together, first of all. And secondly, they go to coffee shops and they talk about chick problems. Like, oh, man, like this, like I just don't see that happen. Like, you don't overhear men talking about their girl problems ever. Right. And it's always women overanalyzing the shit out of relationships. And it cracks me up because that men don't spend that kind of time doing those things. And it's funny because if you think about it, why are women so obsessed with having a dude? Like, what is that we are so, is it a time thing where we're like, okay, like my eggs are going to dry up, I'm running out of time, like how old am I, like, is it like a time check, like a gut check, or what is that? Because I just don't see guys sitting around at the Starbucks drinking their mochas being like, man, I'm 32, I better start having kids soon, like, where's that lady? You don't overhear that. You just overhear women obsessing and overanalyzing men all the time. So what is the reciprocity? There isn't any. Like, what is that? Like, what are men looking for? Like, what are guys looking for? Like, where do you guys go to meet, decent women that you don't want to just sleep with once? Like, do you guys want to meet decent women that you don't just sleep with once? Like, what are their agendas? I don't know.
Well, before I say something, did you want to say something, Jackie?
No, I'd like to hear the answer to that one.
Well, first, like, I think you had to start with, like, instinct and kind of how we're hardwired. And it seems like women are just hardwired to need to be married. I don't think every woman, like, at ranges, but I think it's just hardwired that way. And I don't think it's not saying it's not hardwired into guys, but I don't think it's something that we feel like if we don't get, we won't survive without it. And It's not conscious, it's not something to where that's where we're thinking about it every day. It's just we don't have that compulsion. It's not like that for us. And so what I think what makes that what that does is that puts us in a position to where we're able to choose women a certain way because we're not so compelled to need one. And you said wonder why women are always obsessing about it, because I think something inherent still in that caveman days that's saying, if I don't get married, how am I going to be protected? From that big ass tiger.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of, right. Those instincts are still there, but, it's obviously it's 2014 and but I think it's still hard for a woman to overcome that and tell herself, like, look, I'm good now. I don't have to be protected from, like I said, I can feed myself, but I think those instincts are still so prevalent, and I think it starts there. And for me, that's why I think kind of puts us out of sync just in that realm, because it seems like guys are kind of like whatever about it. And it's not that, because I don't think you'll find very few guys that will actually say, oh, yeah, I don't want to get married. Like, you don't see a lot of that. Guys want to get married. It's just, it allows us to really choose a certain way. And I think how we go about choosing a wife is just completely different than how a woman goes about choosing a husband. Because to me, it seems like a woman would rather get married to the wrong person than not be married at all. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see that, definitely.
And
yeah,
to a guy,
and women stress about it way too much.
Right. And you can tell just how they talk about it, how they approach it. And it's like, to a guy, being married to the wrong person is worse than not being married at all. Like, to us, it's like crazy. Like, why would you think that just, but we don't have that pull. Like you said, you can go into the whole, the biological clock issue as well, because that's a legit issue, because it's a real thing. At a certain point, things start dropping off. But, for a guy, it's like, it's not that we don't care, it's just we don't have to have it like that. So we're able to choose something that we really feel like fits us, you know? And like, so what do you guys think about that? Like, what came to your mind when I was talking about it?
For women, it almost feels like, okay, we have this 10-year span where we need to get married and start having kids and get it done and over with because this is our prime and never going to get our bodies back and, like do it now or your life is, going to be ruined if you don't get it done before then. And for guys, you guys can keep producing up until you're like 80 years old and it's no big deal to you because you have all the time in the world.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that's what it is. For women, they want to have their families, get them done, and get the kids out, and and then even if I guess sometimes for some women, even if it is with the wrong man, if they've got their baby girl, I guess they can get rid of that man if they are strong enough to do so. But yeah, no, it's true. Some women seem like they just want to get married, just say they were married or be married and have those kids like all their other friends are doing. Yeah, it is hardwired, definitely, for most women. I would think so.
I agree. I think that men act in stages and women act in time. So when women get in fights with men about commitment, it's always when, as if they really expect the man to say, well, on June 23rd, 2015, that's when. Women are always when. And men don't operate that way. They don't operate in time. They operate in stages. First, I want to be successful. Then I want to create my kingdom. Then I want to be the king of my kingdom. Then I'll go search for a queen. Women don't do that. We want it now. We want it now. And we want to know we have it now, so that we can project how we're going to live our lives in the future. And so I think that, like, for instance, when I got divorced, the thing that made me the saddest once I realized it was that I was angry about the future that I could have had, that it was lost. And so I was grieving something that I could have had. And it was like, such a letdown. You got to start from scratch, And the first thing I thought of was, oh, my God, I'm 30. And no man would have done that. They wouldn't have gone, oh, I'm 30. Like, oh, shoot, But a girl does, like, oh, I'm 30. Start from scratch. That's old, like, oh, no. And so just like Jackie said, women will tolerate the wrong man just to say that they have a family and they have kids, and we'll tolerate that, and we'll try to fix it and nurture it and heal it and XYZ it to death until we realize, a square peg doesn't fit in a round hole. But men won't do that. I mean, they look at that and they go, oh, square peg, round hole. No, that doesn't work. And they'll just move on. Women don't do that. We'll massage the shit out of it until we realize, 10 years later it's not working. So.
And it's true with the whole when. We want to know when so we can plan our life around that.
So
that when. Yeah. And it's frustrating. But it's exactly. It's how we're hardwired. That's all it is.
It's so funny because it seems like you guys need that safety of knowing when in order to do anything else. Like you need that future promise in order, and it's so weird because like as a guy, like to me that's fascinating because I can't even imagine. And maybe it's because we're not so compelled to be married. We realize how big of a deal it is, because a lot of times women talk about it like why won't you marry me? Like, well, this isn't like you're just choosing to go do something. Like this is marriage, like this is something. I don't know any other bigger decision that you're going to make that's going to affect your life more than who you're going to connect yourself with. And like as a guy, to me that's I don't have to think about that. Like to me that's how you would naturally approach it. But like you guys said, it's as a guy, like when I see a girl, like most guys, I would say when they see a girl in the first 2 or 3 minutes, they know the potential of that girl. So a guy can look at a girl and say, I can see her as my wife in the first couple minutes, sometimes even shorter than that. But that's like, you got to think of that as like a picture frame. And so what he does after that, once he sees that girl where you can see, and it's the same thing like, oh, this is a girl I can just, just mess around with, or this is a girl that'd be cool. I mean, it doesn't matter what what the thing is, but like we can do that, and every guy does that. And so if I can see a girl, you're like, okay, that's marriage potential right there. And that makes the frame. And so what we do after that is the stages of filling in that frame. And so that's how and like I said, when you said about bringing up the stages, that's kind of how it goes in terms of how we approach you guys. Like I said, it's not conscious. That's not what we're thinking, but this is what happens. So it's really different. And I think, what do you guys think men and women need to do to kind of more bridge that gap? Because obviously we're coming in two completely different levels. And they're both legit to a certain degree, but it seems like both of our instincts are telling us to do stuff that we might not need anymore. And it seems like almost going to be hurting us more than anything.
But
I don't know if there's anything you can do.
Yeah.
There's
like
really
saying,
nothing.
Yeah, that's like saying, hey, Brittany, don't be white anymore. It's like, I can't undo that, like, it just is what it is, So at some level, it's just inherently part of who you are. It's like in the fiber of who you are. So, I don't know how you undo that.
I mean, I think I think you can be aware of it. Like, I think you can be aware that, okay, this is not like Brittany dealing or thinking right now. This is like, cave woman thinking right now. She's trying to just make this into something. I mean, I think you can be aware of being able to tell the difference when you're in that kind of instinctual mode as opposed to maybe like a more human spirit type of mode. You know what I mean? Because, like we all know, like, that saying, don't really go towards your type. Like, you should probably date off type. Because, like, whatever, a lot of times if you're too attracted to somebody, that can affect, how you deal with them. You don't want that over attraction, because every time you've been in that kind of a situation, that's really bombed out. But I do think being aware of it can help, if you're aware of what's real and what's legit and what's not, because I don't think you should be trying to get married and think you have nothing you can do about your own instincts. I think you still have responsibility for them.
Mm-hmm. It might help, but I don't think it'll change anything.
Yeah.
I think women will still want the when and now, and men will be like, well, whenever and when I'm ready. Like, there's no change in it.
Like, there's just no getting around that. Like, at the end of the day, you're just not going to be able to escape that kind of a paradigm of approach of us kind of going about it that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Okay, well, listeners, you can chime in, because I'm sure you guys have some thoughts about this, and I'm sure you can relate this to your own situations. And so let us know, what you think about this, because we're going to move on to relationships and social media. And I think that's interesting, because obviously you can't talk about relationships nowadays without talking about the effects of social media and all the different things that come along with that. And so what do you guys think about this area, and how do you feel social media has affected the way we get along and we get together, and how we deal with each other in relationships? Go ahead, Jackie.
Well, social media is a big thing nowadays in relationships. It could be anything from what you post to how much you're on it. I mean, I think when you're in a relationship, whether, it's a new relationship or not, you kind of need to establish what kind of things you want to keep personal and what kind of things you're okay with being out there. And then I think there needs to be some kind of, like, understanding of how much time you're sitting there looking on your phone and playing on Instagram and playing on Facebook, and, and your other half is sitting, next to you, either doing the same thing, and you guys aren't intermingling at all. And it needs to be established from the beginning, the whole social media thing, because it can get really ugly really fast if the wrong thing is posted or the other person feels neglected. So, I mean, yeah, it goes back to just communication with the whole issue of the social media.
I I agree. I'm not on any social media. I don't have Facebook or anything anymore. Mainly because I found that I was spending a lot of time worrying about other people's lives. And,
right.
You just start clicking on a picture, and then you click on another picture, and then you're just like, you're kind of like a voyeur, and you're just watching everyone else have a life. And it's like, well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just watching everyone. You know what I mean? Like, you're not living your own life. You're just, like, sort of absorbing everyone else's. And, honestly, this sounds really trite, but I just got sick of seeing pictures of what people were eating for lunch every day. So it just wasn't as valuable to be like, oh, cool, Susie's eating grilled cheese. So I just didn't care. But, I think, that's a really good outlet, too, for relationships in the way that, and in a negative way, actually, that, especially for breakups, I think that social media can make people emotional cutters, and they will look to dig up things that they don't really want to see or should see, but it fills a need. When you get broken up with, and you're like, oh, is so and so with a new girl? You can dig all that crap up, and it's just not valuable. I think it's also a good way to. Someone once said, where wives meet girlfriends. So, where you can sort of make these connections with old flames, and it's innocent because it's just your friends, and then now you're chatting and privately. It just, I don't know. So it depends on what your agenda is. But I think it's a way for people to be more brash than they necessarily would be if they were face to face. So I don't know. It's kind of it cuts both ways.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is, how do you really talk about it with another person? With let's say, both of you, you and your significant other, or, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you're on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, all that stuff. How do you guys really build that trust? Because to me, the biggest problem with social media is going to affect trust, and to me, it's hard for me to believe that you can do that and really still maintain that level of trust. Because even if you're controlling yourself, you still have other people, being able to do pretty much whatever they want. And, I don't know, as, another person, are you going to be able to kind of look at, be able to trust that other person, and you're not worried about what he's doing or what she's doing? And, how does trust get built on that level? I mean, is that just communication, or do you pretty much have to be pretty good within yourself? I mean, how do you, where does trust come into play?
Well, you have to trust the person you're with. If you don't trust them, they had to have given you a reason not to. That's just something that with your own insecurities or securities, you just need to trust that they're not doing anything bad on social media. And for some couples, I know that they just went ahead and just combined their Facebook and just made one, so they're sharing that one. Hopefully someone doesn't have a secret page or anything like that, but it seems to work for a lot of couples to share just one Facebook where you can post your things or look at other people's stuff, so what's coming in your inboxes, or but you just have to trust them. There's no other way of going about it. There's either trust, or you shouldn't even be in the relationship at all.
Yeah, I don't think that Facebook creates a lack of trust. I think, sort of as Jackie's already pointed out, that you can't control anyone else ever, irrespective of social media. You can't control the actions of other people regardless of whether or not you want to, or whether or not it's in their best interest or anything. So all you can do is control yourself. And so that goes for social media or any other avenue or venue with which you can do something inappropriate or suggestive or malicious or whatever. It's really just you can only control yourself and then your reaction to what other people do. And that's it. So, past that, trust has to be established well before Facebook. So I think, if you have a Facebook and so does your significant other, or they're on social media, the trust should have been established well before they had a username. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. And if there's any issues, too, I've always found that what if you give them your password? And if they feel the need that they need to check in on you, then they have that access to it if they need to.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes that'll just help your, even if you don't go check on it, at least you can if you really felt the need to.
Right. And, I guess that's, at the end of the day, like you said, it comes down where if you're not with somebody you can trust, then I guess you're really kind of in trouble at that point, regardless.
Yeah.
But when it comes to social networking and kind of how it kind of reestablishes the importance of image, like, do you guys feel people are going to have kind of a harder time because maybe, you don't really want to lose that image of you guys on social media? Because I know some people, if they ever broke up, they're going to delete like 100, 200 pictures. They're going to do a lot of stuff because of that situation. And to me, it kind of seems like, is it becoming kind of relationships kind of becoming more accessories for you just to be able to have something to put online and give people that image of this is what it looks like? Because if you go on, social networking, everybody has a great relationship. Everybody's like in love, and everybody's like with people that like look exactly like them, and like it's crazy. I'm just thinking to myself, like, this can't be real. Like, I don't want to be a pessimist, but I'm just like, how, what's going on? And to me, it would be kind of, I'm thinking, would it be kind of difficult to have to, or make it more difficult to maybe have to make adjustments because maybe you built this online, image, and where would that kind of come in? You know what I mean? You guys know what I mean?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's scattered, and you have to, like, delete everything, and everyone's like, what the heck happened? I thought you were the happiest couple ever.
Right. Could that lead people to maybe kind of making it a little harder because now, are people, it seems like people literally do stuff together purely just to put it online. It can't seem like that. To me, it's crazy. And to me, I'm just kind of like, what's going on? Like, is this real, or this, can you think it's legit, or is it? Do you think people nowadays kind of feel like they have to put that out there, and have that pressure to make it keep looking good?
What is the pressure? I mean, like, where does that come from? The pressure to demonstrate to other people that you're happy? Is it like a superiority thing where it's like, me and my somebody are in a better relationship than you? Like, is that what you're asking? Or is it just that me and my somebody have a good relationship, so we're demonstrating that we're happy? I mean, what is the point?
It almost seems like an insecurity thing. Like, if you're not secure in your relationship, you've got to kind of put it out there that you are happy. But I have no idea. I don't know even where to go on this, because most of my pictures are, or posts or crazy things that happen or something random. But, yeah, I don't know. Right. It seems like it's just an insecurity issue.
I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sure you've seen people on there that you kind of looked at and kind of like, I'm sure people, or you're like, I know you're not living like that. Like, I know how you guys are, by yourselves. It's just, I guess, like you said, where's that pressure come from? And is that pressure not to be like the one who's missing out? Because like you said, if you're on Facebook all the time, if you're on social media all the time, you're constantly looking at other people's lives. And people are only going to put on there pretty much their successes and their accomplishments, which is fine, but you're having all that thrown in your face all the time that you think it can come from just that need to feel like you're not being left behind, like you're not being, isolated. And to me, I'm thinking that would be an issue for, like, as a guy, like, I know most guys are like this. Like, as a guy, like, I would not want my girl blasting all of our stuff on there,
Mm-hmm.
And like, to me, that would bug me. Like, I wouldn't want that. Like, I don't want to know that, we're going to a restaurant and I'm just waiting for her to pull out her phone and take a picture of this food before I can start eating. Like, I don't.
Robert, 18 people might like that. You know what I mean? They really might.
Hey, like, if I'm pissed off at you right now, like, put that shit on there too, then, because, like, I don't know, because I see a lot of that, and I know that it's affecting how. I'm wondering, do you think it's affecting how people choose? Do you think social media has affected how? Do you think it's something that we have to bring in terms of how we choose? I mean, I know you're not really on it, but I know you used to be. Do you think it affects that, how people get to actually who they choose to be with? Do you think it would affect somebody if they really like somebody, but maybe they wouldn't necessarily look good in the picture together? You know, to me, that's the kind of stuff I think about. I know I would think about that. That's the only reason why I'm saying I would think about that. I know it may not sound right, but I'm like, well, if I'm thinking about that, I know somebody else is too. I mean, because I would think about that. I'm like, wait a minute, you know, like I'd much rather, if I'm going to put this on there, I want to be with somebody who really looks good, you know what I mean? And I know that some of you don't. I know at least once you've not posted something because of who you were with. You know what I mean? Like,
but
I know that's
terrible.
happening.
I mean, that's terrible. Where it's like, well, I hope my girlfriend looks good enough in this picture to post because I hope that when people see her, they think she's pretty. It's just like, who gives a crap? I don't know. Yes, but that's totally true. People are very much like that. Yes,
right.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think you go out going, who's going to be my Facebook boyfriend? But it's just like, I'm sure like there to a certain extent, yeah. Like there are certain pictures you don't post because you're like, ooh, that wasn't your best angle, you know. But I don't know. I don't know.
If you're involved in Facebook or anything like that, I mean, you should just know, you know, if your friend's taking a picture of you, it's probably going to go on Facebook. Just kind of deal with it and let it be. Like I've been with my husband since before Facebook and MySpace and all that stuff came out. So I mean, I never really thought of it from that angle. Yeah, I was 16, so like, yeah. But so I have never really thought of it that way. Like, oh wait, now there's Facebook. Should I stay with this guy? Because is he gonna live it on Facebook with me? Like, I don't really know. But I mean, I think just assume the pictures are gonna be on there and it's gonna happen. So you know, either deal with it or don't take the picture.
Yeah.
But as far as posting your significant other up, and I mean, why are you with the guy if you don't find him attractive, or why are you with the girl if you don't find her attractive? So,
I mean, people like people for a lot of different reasons, though. You know what I mean? I mean, it's
well, you still got to sleep with them at the end of the day. There's got to be some kind of attraction there.
All right, Larry's calling, and I want to bring him in and let him chime in on this for a second and give his thoughts. All
right.
Larry, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going, you guys?
How are you?
Hey, the show's been great, but I've been listening, and I want to go ahead and just share my opinion that I think our generation is in trouble with relationships in general, and I think that technology has pretty much taken the social interaction between people away, as well as the ability to experience the search of finding like true foundational principles of a relationship. And when that happens, I think that for the most part, when people use, like, let's say, Tinder or social media or whatever to search for the opposite sex or to search for a mate, it isolates them, and people begin to fill in voids in their life. And sometimes that happens even not just in relationships, but by seeking like attention and seeking that false perception that people think you're doing something that you aren't. Those are just voids that people are trying to fill in. And that's pretty much my opinion on that in general. But sorry about that. I just wanted to go ahead and comment on that. I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
No, that sounds about right for the most part. I mean, yeah, you got to feel a connection with someone or something all the time, every day, and I guess that's a good way of some people using or fulfilling that void.
Yeah, most definitely. I like what he said. Like I said, it seems like a lot of the things that we're doing, we may be using to fill voids, to not have to deal with certain things about ourselves. You know, intimacy is not easy for everybody, you know, and obviously we'll knock on guys. Guys don't do intimacy that well, but, you know, it's important to guys too, but a lot of guys, it's not natural. It's not natural for a lot of girls either. It's not easy. You know, people have been hurt, you know, people have, you know, gone through a lot of things, and it's not easy just to go there, you know, or continually have to continue to go there. It's easier just to go to a Tinder, you know, like dating apps. How do you guys feel about dating apps or just dating online in general? Do you feel like that is, like, that's over, like, how do you feel about it just in general?
I think it works for the people it works for.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, I've never tried it, and I don't think I would, but I think, like, for some people, it works for who it works for. You know, it has an audience. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. So,
Right.
and whether or not that's for attention, because I don't think every girl dates with the intention of marrying that guy, just like I don't think every guy dates a girl with the intention of marrying her either. I think, you know, sometimes it's just for the attention. You know, sometimes you just want to have dinner with somebody. Sometimes you just want to eat, you know, a meal, like, or drink coffee. It's not always about, like, the end goal. Sometimes it just is, like, having a good time with that person for as long as it works out until it fizzles out, and that's fine. So, I mean, if there's definitely an audience for that.
Like companionship. Some people are just looking for that companionship, maybe not necessarily marriage or, you know, family and kids, but just to have, you know, the casual dates and the companionship with another person, you know. That's fine for, you know, people that want to go on Match, or I don't even know what Tinder is, and that's sad, I know.
I don't
either. I mean, like, for some people, if they go in with the intention of what they expect to get, I mean, like, if they want to get married and they go in with that intention, then, you know, maybe they will find someone that's also looking for that same thing. But I think it's all a matter of what your expectations are when you go into it, and how successful it will be for you.
Would use in any other situation, you know, expectations have to be checked. You know, definitely you have to know what really are you wanting from it, because I know I'm sure different sites do different things, but I think where it's going to get kind of messed up is, you know, like we were talking about before, to a certain degree it does kind of cancel out intimacy. I think you just have to be aware of that, or you know that it's going to come more down the road. When you go down that road, you know, you are pretty much going off of pretty general stuff, pretty surface stuff, and you got to be okay with that, you know. And I especially think if you're a girl, you got to understand that, you know, what are your expectations? What is it that you're really wanting? Because I think a lot of people try to do what they think will work and hopefully bring you in kind of where you're really wanting to have happen, and I don't think that's a good idea. You know, so I think just like anything else, you really have to, if you're going to do the online dating, you still have to really represent who you are and really what you're wanting. And don't try and mislead anybody, because they're going to find out. You know, they're eventually going to find out who you really are and what you're really about. And so I would just say that, like I said, I think online dating is fine, and nothing else is here to stay. Definitely have to use the same sense that you would have normally, and still put your true self out there and express who you know, how you really are and what you're really about, because at the end of the day, it's still, you know, you're still going to have to get to know somebody, and they're going to have to get to know you. But we've got about 12 minutes left, and so let's give our listeners kind of a teaser into marriage, and then we'll give our last thoughts, and then we will end the show. So, marriage. I know this is a big thing for both of you. You both have definitely very much have experience in this arena. And so how do you feel our generation approaches marriage, and where do you think marriage is going for us?
Well, I mean, everyone, I guess, I see it as a lot of people go into marriage thinking, okay, well, if this doesn't work, I can always get divorced and try again. And that's, I mean, I'm from, you know, a divorced parents, you know, they've all remarried, and I mean, it goes through everybody's mind. Okay, if this doesn't work, well, it's not such a bad thing to get divorced. People don't get along. They, you know, do in the beginning, and things happen, and so, I mean, I think that's exactly how people go into it now. Like, okay, well, marriage is always an option, and divorce is always an option, and if you go into it that way, you know, you kind of expect it to end that way. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, like, if you think of it that way, then that could probably very well be how it ends. And I mean, I've seen it happen. I know plenty of people who are, and you know, and it's hard. And I've, you know, thought of it sometimes, and you know, I'm sure he has thought of it sometimes. And because marriage is not easy.
What do you think people are not really getting about marriage? Because I really want people to be able to get the reality of it, and I know both of you understand the reality of it. What do you really believe that people really aren't getting about it? But you probably don't have obviously enough time for all of that, but just kind of give me a little bit of really where you guys know that people really need to understand about marriage.
It's hard, and so if you think for a minute that there's potential for you to give up, don't do it, because you're going to hurt somebody else and affect their life in the process. And so I think it's very undervalued how difficult it can be. And when things get tough, that's when your character shines through. So you either withstand it or you don't. And a lot of people, when it gets tough, they withstand it even just because they're married, and that really is the only reason. And so if you can, then that's great. And if you can't, then I think, as Jackie pointed out, we're all too eager now to say, "Oh, this is too tough. I'm gonna go, and I can try this with somebody else." And I think that's the sad part. I think it's hard, and that's the bottom line. And if you don't think you can handle it for any reason, or you think at any point you're going to give up, then it's not something that you should do with that person. Not for yourself, but for that person. Like, consider that other individual, because that's their life too. And so if you don't think it's something you can handle in the worst scenario, then don't do it, because you'll find it's more challenging than anyone else can give you advice that it might be.
Right.
It's exactly, yeah. Is it people go into it sometimes thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great. This girl is wonderful. I'm going to marry her," and then things get hard, and that's when their true self sometimes will come out. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy, especially that first couple of years. So I mean, you gotta talk to everybody before you jump into it.
Right. And I know kind of we were talking a little earlier about kind of how both guys and girls kind of approach it, but I guess that's what I really want people to know is no matter how many books you read, no matter how many people, I mean, I'm not married, but I know a lot of married people, and I know a lot of married people who, are doing it, and, I know a high-quality type of person, I admit it. But I understand that, knowing you two and knowing that you guys wouldn't have done it unless you knew you were willing to do everything you could. And I really think that's what's so important is that, especially for men out there, you really better make sure you pick a woman that really fits you, not just emotionally, sexually, because like they're saying, you're hearing these women say it's not easy, and like I said, you're probably going to think about it, and you're probably going to have to go through certain things that you don't expect. And I know our culture says that, divorce doesn't have that stigma anymore, and, we have all these options to go get something else, but, it's one of those things to where it's a big deal. And I want people to understand that it's a big deal, because when you said, if it doesn't, if you pick wrong or if it doesn't go right, it's going to affect your life, and both of your lives are going to be affected, in a pretty major way. If you have children, it's going to affect their lives. No matter how many people tell you, "Oh, you can raise single," yeah, I'm sure you can, but I'm sure that's not ideal, even for people who are in that position. And so, for the last thoughts, guys, what would you like to leave our listeners? We got about 6 minutes left, so why don't you guys give your last thoughts, and then I'll give mine, and then we'll go from there. So, yeah, Jackie, give us your last thoughts about kind of what we talked about tonight and kind of what you would like to leave people, especially younger girls, too.
When it comes to relationships, I mean, it goes back to communication and just laying out what you expect, what you want from the other person from the beginning. I mean, don't get involved in a relationship and then find out later that you guys want totally different things, because that just ends in heartbreak and major difficulties. So, I mean, go into any kind of relationship with standards and expectations and let that other person know, because that's the first way you're going to start any kind of true, lasting relationship.
I agree. I would say date the person that you like presently, not the person that you think they could be in your future. If you like who they are today, then that's who you should be with. If there are things you wish that you could work on or that you can see their potential but they haven't met it yet, those types of things, don't date who you think you could make them into. Date the person that you like presently, because I think that sets everyone up for failure. You'll make the person that you're trying to fix feel like they're a failure, and you'll set yourself up for disappointment too. So, accept the person for who they are right now, and if you don't like who they are right now, it's not the right person for you.
Yeah, that's good stuff by both of you. For me, personally, I would just say really get to know yourself. Take the time to really get to know you, really enjoy you, because I think a lot of times people get into situations that are a result of just them not really knowing themselves and not really trusting their instincts and trusting their gut. And if you need time, take the time. I know time is kind of different for men and women, and I respect that because it's a legitimate issue, but at the same time, you don't want to get connected to somebody for life or have children with somebody that, you're going to end up loathing one day or end up hating and, affect your whole life. Because like I said, other than maybe your religious, affiliation, whoever you choose to marry or connect with is really, there's nothing that's going to affect your life more than that, and you're going to have to deal with the after effects of that. And it's possible. It's just, there's ways to really get to a point where I think you can really make a decision that you can have peace with. And that's really what you're trying to get to. I don't think it's about, we all love to know it's going to happen. It's always going to end up perfectly, and we're going to make it. But I think the best you can hope for is just to get to a place of peace. And I really think that's really important. And so we will get or finish off marriage next week. We'll continue to talk about different issues and that. But I want to thank you guys for listening today, this night. For all those who are going to listen to the archives, thank you as well. Thank you to Brittany and Jackie for your thoughts and your opinions. I really appreciate it, guys. Our next episode of Meeting of the Minds will be on Tuesday, and that'll be with myself, Michael, and Larry. And then we've got Dan, Jonah, Chase, and Angelo on Thursday. We'll be back for this show next week. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any questions that you want to ask the girls, I'll let them know what you guys have to ask them. But other than that, I really want to say, once again, I really want to thank you guys for listening in. And hopefully you heard something that you can take or nothing else to think about, because really what I want is not really trying to tell people what to do or to bash anybody or decisions that they've made, but really just to provoke thought. And I really want you to think about what it is that you're doing, because, the world is better. It really is. When people get along and people are having good relationships, like, things just get better. Things are better in general. And so, like I said, once again, I want to thank you guys, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Later.
Bye, guys.